we're going to review the DORMA Architectural Hardware Heavy-Duty Mortise Lock. To get started, we're going to take a quick look at the label. Whenever working with door hardware, it's always very important to quickly review the label to make sure that you've got the right thing. Now, when we take a look at this label, first thing we will see up near the top is it'll tell us what the function is. This is an entry lock, but down below it'll actually give us the numbers. This happens to be the M9953. M stands for Mortise Lock. 9 is indicating it's a heavy-duty Mortise Lock. The second 9 actually indicates that it has a deadbolt. The 53 is the function number, which it's already stating up here, entry lock. But following that is also a letter J. In this case, that means that this lock is equipped to take a small format interchangeable core type lock cylinder. The next thing it tells us is that it tells us it's a lever lock, and it has the rectangular shaped lever, which is the R lever. It has a small rose, which is called the A rose. It's a 626 finish, which is our satin chrome finish, and this happens to be adjusted for a right-hand door. It could also come set for left-hand or right-hand or left-hand reverse, but that we can also change that, and we'll see that in our next video. But as we continue down, you'll see some more description that'll give us more information about how the lock was assembled for this application. It'll give you an order number and the date of manufacture. It's always important when working with hardware to save at least one label from each of the pieces in case you have any questions, or if you need any replacements or additional locks in the future, you can match what you ordered previously. But now that we've seen the label, let's take a look at what's actually inside the box. When we open up the box, one of the first things that we're going to see is the mortise lock. Now I'm going to slide this aside so we can actually take the pieces out and look at them. So when I take this mortise lock out of the box, what you're going to see is a large steel case. In the old days, these were made out of cast iron, but now, to make them even stronger, they're made out of steel so they don't crack. But one of the things that's important to know about a mortise lock is this large metal box is going to be mortised into the edge of the door. That's where its name mortise lock comes from. But also, because of the large steel case on this lock, mortise locks are known to be the most heavy-duty locks in the industry, and typically they're available in more functions or ways that they operate, because this large case allows for them to be built to serve different kinds of functions or needs. When we look at the edge, you can see that it's got a large stainless steel latch bolt. It also has a dead latch that will lock the door lock the latch when the door is closed, so somebody can't just slip the latch and get in. It also has a large stainless steel deadbolt, and down below we have a toggle where we can actually turn this from a locking function into a passage function so that we can move in and out during the day. So this is our lock chassis. I'm going to set that aside and we'll take a look at the next pieces in our box. Now the next pieces that we're going to see in our box are going to be the strike and the dust box that goes with that strike. Now you will notice when you're taking parts out that they are wrapped in plastic. The reason is to protect the finish. The finished parts on these locks are considered by many people to be jewelry for a door, and we need to make sure that we don't scratch or mishandle the finished parts. So this would show you our strike, and you can see it is held in by 2 large-headed screws with a dust box behind it. Also, this particular strike is set up so that it has holes for both the latch and the deadbolt, and when we change the hand, we don't actually need a different strike. So this strike will work for all 4 possible hands of lock. We'll set that aside and we'll take a look at our next series of parts, which happen to be a screw pack. As is always the case, the screws that come with the lock are the ones that should be used in order to install the lock. These locks are all rated for applications in fire doors, and that's only when you use the correct screws. So always be sure to set the screws aside so that you use the correct screws when you go to install the lock. The next pieces that we're going to look at are going to be the levers themselves. So I'm going to unwrap these so that you can see them. This would actually be our satin chrome lever. You can see that it's got a nice finish to it. It's the 626 satin chrome lever. When we turn it over, you're also going to notice that it has two through bolts so that it can be firmly anchored to the door so that it doesn't come loose during the operation. It also has a spring-loaded spindle which will engage into the lock chassis, and under this piece right here is a special spring that will help to hold that lever up for years and years of use, holding it up against gravity. That is the outside lever. The way that I know the difference between the inside lever and the outside lever is the inside lever always going to have screw holes so that we can actually screw the two sides of the chassis together. If we turn it over, you'll see pretty much the same functions, the spring-loaded spindle and the spring cage to support that lever. But after we install our screws on the inside, we don't want to be able to see those screw heads, so we actually have a little rosette, also called a rose, that would actually fit over the screw heads. I'm not going to snap it on yet because we're not ready to install the lock yet, but that is a very important piece. Now the next part that I'm going to open up that we can see here is actually the trim ring that would go around the cylinder. As I open this up, not only are you going to see a pretty scalp, this piece on the outside that everybody would see, but when we turn it over, you can actually see a large steel ring inside, which will help to prevent cylinder wrenching and other kinds of cylinder attack. So this is also very important. We'll set this aside and we'll continue to see what we've got for the inside. On the inside, we actually have this large ergonomic thumb turn, which is easy to operate, and there's two screw holes that will anchor it to the door. When you actually look in the corner of the bag, sealed separately, there's two different sets of screws. There's one for metal door and one for wood doors, so you have both kinds of screws depending on the application. So that's our thumb turn that would be located on the inside. Now the last actual part that we have here is the cylinder housing. This is actually what is going to take our small format interchangeable core. So when you look at this, you're actually going to see what looks like a little figure 8 here, and that's for where our core will slide into the cylinder. We'll use a control key to insert and remove that. You'll also see there are two little pins that stick in there that are actually operated by the cylinder. When those pins turn, the cam on the back of the cylinder will turn as well in order to throw and retract the deadbolt and lock and unlock the door. So that is our cylinder housing. Now that is the parts that are in the box, but there's one more very important piece of information in this box. Actually two pieces. The first is the template. Now many doors these days come with the holes already put into the door at a door factory, but these templates are absolutely critical to success if you have to put, for example, the holes into the surface of the door. Read this very carefully because not all of these holes are used for all of the functions. So for example, in a passage, you wouldn't actually need a hole for a lock cylinder because a passage lock wouldn't have that. But it's very important that you know and how to read this and that you can use this in order to locate the holes that might have to be put into the surface of the door. So very important information, the template. Now the other part is the instructions. And I know some of us joke about not needing to read the instructions, but I will tell you, to ensure your success, take a few minutes, read the instructions, follow them step by step when you do your first installations. Keep the instructions handy if you have any questions. If you have any problems, reread these instructions before you call for help. Very important information. So these are the components in the box for a M9953 Mortise Lock manufactured by DORMA Architectural Hardware.